Silence yourself for a moment and observe your life, not what people told you to be, not what the world demanded from you, just you. In that quiet space, ask yourself one question. Am I building or am I breaking? A real woman does not move through life unconsciously. She is aware of her thoughts, her actions, her energy. She understands that everything she does either creates or destroys. And so she chooses carefully. Clarity over confusion is not something you find outside. It is something you cultivate within. And this is where most people struggle because confusion is comfortable. Confusion allows you to delay decisions. It allows you to avoid response. It gives you an excuse to stay where you are without confronting what must change. But a real woman does not hide in confusion. She becomes still enough to see clearly. She understands that when the mind is noisy, nothing meaningful can be built. So she steps back, not to escape, but to observe, to understand what is real and what is illusion. Clarity begins the moment you stop lying to yourself. Not the lies others tell you, but the ones you repeat in your own mind, the justifications, the excuses, the stories that keep you attached to what is no longer aligned. When you see these clearly, something shifts. You stop reacting blindly and you start responding consciously. There is a discipline in choosing clarity. It requires you to face uncomfortable truths. It requires you to accept that not everything you want is good for you, and not everything you feel is something you should act upon. This is where strength is developed, not in doing more, but in seeing more. A real woman does not allow temporary emotions to dictate permanent decisions. She pauses, she reflects, she asks herself what is truly right, not what feels easy in the moment. Because she knows confusion thrives in emotional chaos, while clarity grows in stillness, and stillness is not weakness. It is power. When you are still, you are not easily influenced. You are not pulled in every direction by opinions, expectations, or fear. You remain centered. You remain grounded in your values. And from this place, your actions carry weight and intention. Clarity also means knowing your direction, not every detail of the path, but the essence of where you are going. If you do not know what you stand for, you will fall for anything. If you do not define your values, others will define them for you. And slowly, without noticing, you begin to build a life that does not belong to you. So you must ask yourself what truly matters. What kind of life are you creating? What kind of person are you becoming? These are not questions to answer once. These are questions to live with, to revisit, to refine as you grow. Confusion often comes from seeking too many voices, listening to everyone except yourself, trying to meet every expectation, trying to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. This creates inner conflict. And from conflict, there is no clear direction. A real woman learns to listen deeply, but she filters wisely. She does not absorb everything. She does not allow external noise to overpower her inner knowing. She takes what is useful and lets go of the rest. This is how clarity is protected. And understand this, clarity does not mean certainty in everything. It means trust in yourself. Even when the path is not fully visible, you move with confidence because you are aligned within. You are not guessing, you are choosing with awareness. When you live with clarity, your energy changes. Your presence becomes calm, not scattered. Your decisions become firm, not hesitant. You stop wasting time on what drains you, and you invest in what builds you. This is how you create a life of substance, not surface. Confusion breaks you slowly. It keeps you stuck in cycles. It makes you doubt your worth, your path, your potential. But clarity restores you. It reconnects you with who you are beyond fear and expectation. So do not rush to fill every silence. Do not distract yourself from your own thoughts. Sit with them, understand them, refine them. Because the clearer you become within, the stronger you stand in the world. And when clarity becomes your foundation, everything you build will carry truth. Discipline over impulse is where transformation becomes visible. It is easy to speak about change, to desire growth, to imagine a better version of yourself. But without discipline, all of it remains an idea. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you are capable of becoming. Impulse is quick, It is emotional. It reacts without thinking, driven by comfort or discomfort in the moment. It seeks instant relief, instant pleasure, instant validation, and this is why it feels powerful. But look deeper. Impulse does not build anything lasting. It gives you a moment, but takes away your direction. Ekent. A real woman does not allow her life to be controlled by temporary urges. She understands that every small action repeated over time shapes her reality. So she becomes intentional, not perfect, but consistent, not rigid, but committed. Discipline begins in the unseen moments when no one is watching, when there is no applause, when it is easier to give in than to stay aligned. This is where character is built. Not in public victories, but in private decisions. You will not always feel motivated. You will not always feel strong. There will be days when your mind resists, when your body feels tired, when your emotions try to pull you away from your path. This is natural, but discipline is not about how you feel. It is about what you choose despite how you feel. A real woman trains her mind to lead, not to follow every passing emotion. She creates structure in her life, not to restrict herself, but to support her growth, because without structure, energy becomes scattered. And when energy is scattered, progress becomes slow and inconsistent. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. It is waking up and doing what needs to be done, even when comfort calls you to stay where you are. It is choosing long-term growth over short-term satisfaction. It is saying no to what weakens you, so you can say yes to what strengthens you. Many people wait for the right moment, the perfect mood, the ideal conditions. But these are illusions. The right moment is created through action. The more you act with discipline, the more clarity and strength you develop. Waiting only deepens hesitation. Impulse often leads to regret. Words spoken without awareness. Decisions made without thought. 90 incisions. Actions taken without alignment. And then comes the consequence. The realization that a moment of lack of control has created something you now must repair. But when you live with discipline, you reduce unnecessary suffering. You think before you act. You pause before you respond. You move with awareness instead of reaction. This does not mean you become slow. It means you become precise. There is also freedom in discipline. It may not feel like it at first, but over time, it gives you control over your life. When you are disciplined, you are not easily distracted. You are not easily influenced. You know what you need to do and you do it. This creates confidence. Not the kind that seeks validation, but the kind that is built through experience. You trust yourself because you have proven to yourself that you can stay consistent, that you can follow through, that you can hold your ground even when it is difficult. A real woman does not depend on external pressure to stay committed. She holds herself accountable. She becomes her own standard. This is what separates growth from stagnation. This is what turns intention into reality. And understand this clearly, discipline is not about being harsh with yourself. It is about being honest. Honest about your habits, honest about your patterns, honest about where you are and where you need to go. From this honesty, you create change. When discipline becomes part of your life, your actions begin to align with your values. Your words begin to match your behavior. There is no contradiction. There is no confusion. You become stable within yourself. Impulse may feel powerful in the moment, but discipline builds a life that does not collapse under pressure. And when discipline becomes your way of living, your growth is no longer dependent on how you feel, but on who you choose to be. Self-respect over approval is where many lose themselves without even realizing it, because the desire to be accepted is deeply rooted. It feels natural to want to be liked, to be understood, to be valued by others. But when this desire becomes your guide, you slowly begin to drift away from who you truly are. A real woman notices this early. She becomes aware of the subtle ways she may try to adjust herself to fit expectations. The way she may soften her truth to avoid discomfort. The way she may say yes when her inner voice is clearly saying no. And in that awareness, she makes a different choice. A Pauval is unstable. It changes depending on who you are around. What is appreciated in one place may be criticized in another. If you build your identity on something so fragile, you will constantly feel uncertain. You will constantly question yourself. And this creates an inner conflict that weakens your foundation. Self-respect, on the other hand, is steady. It does not depend on external opinions. It comes from knowing your values and choosing to live by them, even when it is inconvenient, even when it is misunderstood, even when it costs you certain connections. This is not easy. There will be moments when choosing self-respect feels uncomfortable. You may feel alone. You may feel misunderstood. You may even question if you are being too firm. But understand this clearly. Discomfort is not a sign that you are wrong. It is often a sign that you are stepping out of old patterns. A real woman does not betray herself to maintain temporary harmony. She understands that peace built on self-abandonment is not real peace. It is suppression. And what is suppressed does not disappear. It builds within, and eventually it creates resentment, frustration, and distance from your own truth. Self-respect is expressed through your boundaries, not the boundaries you speak about, but the ones you actually maintain. It is easy to say what you deserve. It is harder to stand by it when tested. When someone pushes, when someone expects more than you can give, when someone disregards your limits. In these moments, your actions reveal your level of self-respect. Do you remain aligned, or do you adjust yourself to avoid conflict? Do you hold your ground calmly, or do you give in to be accepted? These are the moments that shape your inner strength. Approval often asks you to shrink, to become more acceptable, more convenient, more silent. But self-respect asks you to stand fully in who you are. Not aggressively, not defensively, but clearly. Without apology for your values, your needs, your direction. This does not mean you become closed or rigid. A real woman remains open to growth. She listens. She reflects, she evolves, but she does not lose her center in the process. She does not change her core just to fit into spaces that do not honor her. There is also a deep sense of freedom that comes with self-respect. You are no longer constantly evaluating how others see you. You are no longer adjusting your behavior to gain approval. You move with authenticity. And this authenticity attracts the right people, the right opportunities, the right environment. And because what is aligned will recognize you, and what is not aligned will fall away. This is not loss. This is clarity in action. Many people stay in situations that do not serve them because they fear disapproval. They fear being judged, rejected, or misunderstood. But in doing so, they create a life that feels heavy and unfulfilling. A life where they are present physically but absent internally. A real woman chooses differently. She understands that not everyone will agree with her, not everyone will support her, and that is acceptable. What matters is that she remains true to herself. When you prioritize self-respect, your decisions become clearer. Your relationships become healthier. Your energy becomes more stable. You stop chasing validation and start living with intention. And over time, something shifts. The need for approval begins to fade. Not because you no longer care, but because you care more about staying aligned within. Self-respect is not loud. It is quiet, steady, and deeply rooted. It is reflected in how you treat yourself, how you allow others to treat you, and how you respond when your values are tested. And when self-respect becomes your standard, you no longer seek approval to feel worthy, because you already stand in your own truth. Awareness over reaction is the moment you stop living on autopilot and begin to live with intention. Most people move through life reacting to words, to situations, to emotions, to memories. One moment triggers another, and before they realize it, they are caught in patterns they do not even understand. A real woman observes this within herself. She notices how quickly the mind wants to respond, how the body tightens, how emotions rise without warning. And instead of immediately acting on them, she creates space. Not a large space, not something dramatic, just a moment, a pause. And in that pause, everything begins to change. Reaction is fast, but it is often unconscious. It is shaped by past experiences, by conditioning, by unresolved emotions. When you react, you are not always responding to the present moment. You are responding to what the moment reminds you of. This is why small situations can create strong reactions. It is not about what is happening now. It is about what is still unresolved within. Awareness brings light to this process. It allows you to see what is actually happening inside you. You begin to notice your thoughts instead of becoming them. You begin to feel your emotions without being controlled by them. This is not suppression. This is understanding. A real woman does not deny her emotions. She does not pretend to be unaffected. She feels deeply, but she does not let those feelings dictate her actions blindly. She allows the emotion to pass through, and then she chooses how to respond. This is where true power lies. Not in controlling the outside world, but in understanding your inner world. Because when you understand yourself, you are not easily shaken. You are not easily provoked. You remain steady even when circumstances are not. Awareness also requires honesty. You must be willing to see your patterns clearly, the habits you repeat, the triggers that affect you, the situations where you lose your balance. Without judgment, but with clarity, because judgment only creates resistance, while clarity creates the possibility for change. Many people believe that strength means reacting quickly, speaking immediately, defending instantly. But often, this is just a lack of awareness. It is the inability to pause, to reflect, to choose wisely. A real woman understands that not every situation requires a response, and not every response needs to be immediate. Sometimes the strongest action is silence, not out of fear, but out of control. The ability to hold your energy, to not engage unnecessarily, to not be pulled into conflict that does not serve you. This is awareness in action. When you live reactively, you give your power away. Your mood depends on others. Your peace depends on circumstances. Your direction changes with every external influence. But when you live with awareness, you reclaim that power. You become the one who decides how to respond. This does not mean you become passive. It means you become intentional. Your words carry more meaning because they are chosen, not impulsive. Your actions create more impact because they are aligned, not scattered. Awareness also deepens your relationships. You begin to listen more, not just to respond, but to understand. You notice what is being said and what is not being said. You become present. And in that presence, there is less conflict, less misunderstanding, less unnecessary tension. But this level of awareness requires practice. It is not something you switch on once and keep forever. It is something you return to again and again. Each moment offers a choice to react as you always have or to pause and respond differently. And over time, these small choices reshape your life. You become calmer, clearer, more grounded. Situations that once disturbed you no longer have the same effect. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. A real woman knows that her inner state is her responsibility. She does not blame others for how she reacts. She reflects, she learns, she refines herself continuously, and as awareness grows, reaction loses its hold. And when you master this space between feeling and action, you begin to move through life with a calm strength that nothing can easily disturb. Inner peace over external noise is a choice that must be made again and again. Because the world is not quiet. It is full of opinions, expectations, distractions, and constant movement. There is always something trying to pull your attention, something trying to influence your direction, something trying to define who you should be. If you are not aware, you will absorb this noise without question. You will begin to measure yourself through the eyes of others. You will start to chase what is trending instead of what is true. And slowly, your mind becomes crowded, your energy becomes scattered, and your sense of self becomes unclear. A real woman recognizes this early. She understands that not everything deserves her attention. Just because something is loud does not mean it is important. Just because something is popular does not mean it is right for her. And so she becomes selective. Not closed, but intentional. Inner peace does not come from controlling the outside world. It comes from regulating your inner world. It is the ability to remain steady even when everything around you is moving. It is the ability to stay clear even when others are confused. It is the ability to be present without being overwhelmed. This requires discipline. The discipline to step away from what disturbs your balance. The discipline to limit what you consume, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally. Because what you allow into your mind shapes how you think, how you feel, and how you act. Many people underestimate this. They surround themselves with negativity, with constant comparison, with endless distractions, and then wonder why they feel restless and unsettled. But your environment, both external and internal, has a direct impact on your state of being. A real woman takes responsibility for this. She creates space for silence, not because she is avoiding the world, but because she understands the importance of reconnecting with herself. In silence, you hear your own thoughts more clearly. In silence, you notice what is truly yours and what has been absorbed from others. Inner peace is not the absence of challenges. It is the ability to remain centered within them. There will always be situations that test you. There will always be moments of uncertainty, moments of pressure, moments where emotions rise. But peace allows you to move through these moments without losing yourself. External noise often creates urgency. It makes everything feel immediate, important, and necessary. It pushes you to react quickly, to decide quickly, to move without reflection. But not everything requires your immediate attention. Not everything needs your energy. A real woman understands the value of slowing down, taking a step back before engaging, of asking herself whether something aligns with her values or simply distracts her from them. This pause protects her energy. It protects her clarity. It protects her direction. There is also strength in detachment, not in the sense of being cold or distant, but in the sense of not being controlled by every external influence. You can care without being consumed. You can be involved without losing your center. You can listen without absorbing everything. This balance is what creates stability. Because when you depend on the outside for your sense of peace, you become unstable. Your mood shifts with circumstances. Your energy rises and falls based on what is happening around you. But when peace is cultivated within, it remains steady regardless of external conditions. A real woman does not chase peace through avoidance. She builds it through understanding. She reflects on what disturbs her and works to resolve it within. She does not ignore her inner state. She refines it, and over time, something changes. The same situations that once created stress no longer have the same impact. The same noise that once distracted you begins to fade into the background. Not because it has disappeared, but because your focus has shifted. You begin to value depth over distraction, stillness over stimulation, meaning over noise. And this shift allows you to build a life that feels grounded, not chaotic. Inner peace also influences how you show up for others. When you are calm within, you do not bring unnecessary tension into your relationships. You listen more. You react less. You create space for understanding instead of conflict. This is not something that happens overnight. It is a continuous practice, a daily decision to return to yourself, to protect your energy, to stay aligned with what truly matters. And when inner peace becomes your foundation, the noise of the world loses its power to disturb you. Boundaries over sacrifice is where many lessons are learned the hard way, because from the outside, sacrifice often looks noble. It looks like love, it looks like care, it looks like strength, and in some moments it can be. But when sacrifice becomes a pattern that ignores your own well-being, it slowly turns into self-abandonment. A real woman understands the difference. She knows that giving is powerful, but only when it comes from a place of fullness. When you give from emptiness, you are not truly supporting anyone. You are depleting yourself while trying to maintain something that is not balanced. Boundaries are not walls. They are clarity in action. They are a reflection of what you accept and what you no longer tolerate. They are not meant to push people away, but to define how you allow yourself to be treated. Without boundaries, everything becomes unclear. People will take what is not offered. They will cross what is not protected. Not always out of intention, but because there is no clear line. Many people fear setting boundaries because they associate it with conflict. They believe that saying no will create distance, that expressing limits will lead to rejection, and sometimes it will. But this is where understanding is needed. If someone only stays in your life when you have no boundaries, then they are not respecting you. They are benefiting from your lack of clarity. A real woman does not seek to be accepted at any cost. She understands that not every connection is meant to remain. Some people are only present when it is convenient for them. Some only value you when you give more than you should. And when you begin to set boundaries, these dynamics become visible. This can feel uncomfortable. You may feel guilt. You may feel like you are doing something wrong, but this guilt often comes from conditioning, from being taught that your needs should come second, that your role is to give, to adjust, to tolerate. And breaking this pattern requires awareness and courage. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about taking responsibility for yourself. You are not deciding how others should behave. You are deciding what you will accept. And if something does not align, you choose how to respond. You step back, you create distance, you protect your space. There is strength in this. Not loud strength, but steady strength, the kind that does not need to prove anything. The kind that simply knows its limits and respects them. A real woman communicates her boundaries clearly. Not aggressively, not emotionally, but directly. She does not expect others to read her mind. She expresses what she needs, what she values, and what she will not compromise. And then she stands by it. Because boundaries without action are only words. If you say something matters to you but allow it to be crossed repeatedly, you create confusion. Not only for others, but within yourself. You weaken your own sense of self-respect. Sacrifice becomes harmful when it is one-sided, when you are always the one adjusting, always the one giving, always the one compromising. Over time, this creates imbalance. And imbalance leads to exhaustion, frustration, and eventually disconnection from yourself. A real woman recognizes this before it goes too far. She pays attention to how she feels. If something consistently drains her, if something requires her to ignore her own needs, she reflects. She asks herself if this is sustainable, if this is aligned, and if it is not, she makes a change. This does not mean she stops caring. It means she cares with awareness. She gives where it is appreciated. She invests where there is mutual respect. She remains open, but not at the cost of her stability. There is also respect that comes from boundaries. When you respect yourself, others begin to see it. Not everyone will accept it, but those who are aligned will recognize it. They will understand your limits. They will value your presence, not because you give endlessly, but because you give with intention. And this creates healthier connections, relationships where there is balance, where both sides contribute, where both sides respect each other's space. Boundaries also protect your growth. They allow you to focus on what matters without constant interruption. They give you the space to develop, to reflect, to build your life without being pulled in every direction. This is not selfish, it is necessary. Because if you do not protect your time, your energy, and your peace, no one else will do it for you. Second, a real woman does not measure her worth by how much she sacrifices. She measures it by how aligned she remains. And when you choose boundaries over unnecessary sacrifice, you begin to build a life that supports you instead of draining you. Growth over comfort is a decision that shapes everything that follows. Because comfort is subtle. It does not always look like weakness. It often feels safe, familiar, predictable. It keeps you within what you already know. And for a moment, it feels peaceful. But if you stay there too long, it becomes a limitation. A real woman understands that comfort is not the goal. It is a place to rest, not a place to remain. She recognizes when comfort begins to turn into stagnation. when days start to repeat without, when she feels a quiet dissatisfaction that cannot be explained but can be felt deeply. This feeling is not something to ignore. It is a signal that something within you is ready to expand. But expansion requires movement, and movement often brings discomfort. Growth will ask you to step into the unknown, to take actions that feel unfamiliar, to let go of patterns that once felt safe. And this is where resistance appears. The mind will create doubt, it will create fear. It will remind you of what could go wrong. All of this is natural. But it is not something to follow blindly. A real woman does not wait until she feels completely ready. She understands that readiness is built through action, not before it. So she moves, even if the step is small. Even if the path is not fully clear, she trusts that clarity will come through movement, not through standing still. Comfort often keeps you attached to what is known, even when it no longer serves you. It can keep you in relationships that limit your growth, in environments that do not challenge you, in habits that drain your energy, not because they are good for you, but because they are familiar. But growth requires honesty, the willingness to see where you are holding yourself back, the courage to admit that what once worked may no longer be aligned with who you are becoming. This is not about rejecting everything in your life. It is about refining it, keeping what supports your evolution and releasing what prevents it. This process is not always easy. There may be uncertainty. There may be moments where you question your decisions, but this is part of growth. A real woman does not fear this process. She embraces it, not because it is comfortable, but because it is necessary. She understands that every challenge carries an opportunity to become stronger, clearer, more aligned. Growth also requires patience. It is not immediate. It does not happen in one moment of decision. It happens through consistent effort, through repeated actions, through learning and adjusting along the way. And during this process, there will be times when progress feels slow. This is where many return to comfort, because comfort offers immediate ease while growth demands sustained effort, but ease without progress leads to regret. While effort with direction leads to fulfillment, a real woman stays committed even when results are not visible. She trusts the process. She understands that what she is building takes time. And instead of seeking quick outcomes, she focuses on consistent improvement. There is also a shift that happens when you prioritize growth. Your perspective changes. Challenges are no longer seen as obstacles, but as opportunities to learn. Failure is no longer something to avoid, but something to understand. You begin to see every experience as part of your development. This mindset creates resilience. You are not easily discouraged. You do not stop at the first sign of difficulty. You continue adjusting your approach, refining your actions, staying aligned with your direction. Growth also expands your awareness. You begin to see possibilities that were not visible before. You begin to understand yourself on a deeper level. Your strengths become clearer, your limitations become opportunities for improvement. Comfort keeps you where you are. Growth moves you toward who you can become. A real woman chooses growth not because it is easy, but because it is meaningful. She knows that every step outside of comfort strengthens her. Every challenge refines her. Every experience adds depth to her life. And over time, what once felt uncomfortable becomes natural. What once felt difficult becomes manageable. And what once felt impossible becomes part of who you are. This is how transformation happens, not through sudden change, but through consistent choice. And when you choose growth over comfort, you begin to evolve into a version of yourself that no longer needs to stay small to feel safe. And now, after everything has been said, return to yourself once more, not to the words, but to what they awaken within you. Because this is not about listening. It is about living. It is about the choices you make when no one is watching, when no one is guiding you, when only your awareness remains. To build, not to break, is a path of consciousness. It asks you to stay clear when confusion appears, to remain disciplined when impulse rises, to choose self-respect when approval tempts you, to act with awareness instead of reaction, to protect your inner peace from noise, to honor your boundaries instead of losing yourself. and to keep growing even when comfort calls you back. This is not a one-time decision. It is a way of being, a quiet commitment you carry within yourself every single day. There will be moments when you fall out of alignment. This is part of the process. Do not judge it, see it, learn from it, return again. Because strength is not in never falling, it is in returning with deeper understanding. Walk your path with clarity. Stand in your truth without force. Move with intention, not urgency. And remember, you are not here to fit into every space. You are here to create a life that reflects who you truly are. May you continue to build with wisdom, protect your energy with strength, and move forward with a calm and grounded heart. Good luck on your journey, and thank you